Welcome to Spiritual as Fuck,
Spiritual as fuck.
a podcast where we explore everything outside of the ordinary. I'm Liz Volpe. I'm a social entrepreneur, now psychic medium, teacher and mentor, with a huge passion to inspire people to dream big and change the world.
I'm Diane Driscoll, a coach, facilitator and speaker. I'm also a psychic intuitive, learning to incorporate my spiritual gifts into my life and business.
We're here today to share real and raw spiritual stories. It's going to give you a safe space to challenge what's normal and have some serious fun along the way.
We hope you're ready to get spiritual as fuck. If you follow us on Instagram or joined us for our online event, The Channel, you will know that September is our month of manifestation. And of course, we had to invite a guest who is a trusted voice in manifestation, the law of attraction, and enabling people to transform their lives according to their highest values. Dr. John Demartini is a world-leading human behavioural specialist, researcher, and best-selling author, educator, and founder of the Demartini Method, a revolutionary tool in modern psychology. He has authored over 43 books that have been translated into 40 different languages and presented his insights alongside some of the world's most influential people, including Sir Richard Branson and Deepak Chopra. Dr. Demartini has also been featured in the Oprah Magazine, Larry King Live, Huffpost, MindValley, Sky News, News.com, and many more. Harnessing almost 5 decades of research across multiple disciplines, Dr. Demartini shares his life, business, financial, relationship, and leadership empowerment strategies with people all over the globe, enabling them to transform their lives according to their highest values. You can learn more by visiting www.drdemartini.com. Now, some exciting news. Dr. Demartini has offered us, our Spiritual as Fuck listeners, a free masterclass called Taking Action with the Law of Attraction to empower all 7 areas of your life. The link to access will be in the show notes. But before we introduce you to this man on a mission, let me throw out some quick facts. So he's been featured in several documentaries, including The Secret and Oh My God with Hugh Jackman. He is a polymath and studied over 299 academic disciplines throughout the past 5 decades. He has read over 30,000 books across all defined academic disciplines. Due to a learning difficulty, he only learned how to read at the age of 18. More than 100,000 students have completed his signature Breakthrough Experience program. He has written a gratitude journal for over 37 years, which you'll hear about in this episode. And he nearly died weeks before his 18th birthday, and that experience shifted him into a different life course. So there are lots to unpack in this episode as we go through this man on a mission, Dr. John Demartini.
So Diane and I are here. We are so excited. And just to kind of give you an insight, Diane actually announced a few minutes ago that she was the most nervous for this interview.
Thanks, Liz.
Sorry, Diane. But we are here with the incredible Dr. Demartini. And I have to just start off by saying many, many years ago, actually, Dr. Demartini, I interviewed you in a completely different capacity. You won't probably remember this, but at the time, this was probably either 2018 or 2019. I was actually recording a documentary and you gave your time, gave me this incredible interview on helping us to inspire and educate kids around the world. And you did such an amazing job. So thank you. So it feels so funny. All these years later, I personally have been through some type of a crazy spiritual awakening during that time. And my life looks very different now. And I'm here with you to hopefully speak from that spiritual lens and maybe share some incredible messages to our audience on this. So I'd love to start with a question here on what does spirituality mean to you?
Oh, I'm gonna probably stir up some feathers, as I say.
Oh,
We love that.
right.
Every human being, regardless of age, gender, or culture, or the gender spectrum lives by a set of priorities, a set of values that are unique, like a fingerprint to them. Some people have a very high value on raising a beautiful family. Some people have a high value on building a business. Some their intellectual pursuits, some financial pursuits, some physical fitness. Some are socialites. Others are, quote, spiritual pursuits. But the way I see it is that every human being, whatever is truly highest on their value, where they are spontaneously, intrinsically inspired to take actions and to fulfill, is pursuing their spiritual quest. So a spiritual quest is all encompassing. There's no exclusivity. So no matter what it is that inspires you, whether running a business or whatever, to me, it could be your spiritual quest. Can I share a funny story?
Yes,
Please.
please.
This may offend some people, but I don't think so. I hope not. I had this lovely woman attend one of my programs, my signature programs, the Breakthrough Experience. And she said, Dr. Demartini, what do you do when you have a husband that's not spiritual? And I said, there is no such thing. And she said, she looked at me like, what do you mean there's no such thing? He's not spiritual. And I said, what does he do? Well, he runs an IT company, got 200 employees, and reaches people all over the world with his business. I said, does he love doing that? He says, yes, he just lives in that business. But I'm spiritual. I said, why are you spiritual? And he's not. Well, I do meditation and I chant and I contemplate and I read spiritual books. And his is all about business and finance. I said, let me make sure I get this straight. Are you working? And she goes, no. I said, so this man is dedicating his life to running a business that is employing 200 people and raising 200 families and bringing a product that goes around the world that helps people advance their lives and is pursuing that. And he's making a great living, paying taxes, contributing to the world, in his own unique way. And he's inspired by what he's doing. And he does it every day. And on your side, you're inspired by what you're doing. He's not less spiritual. He has spirituality in his own form. And you actually depend on that form because you're not working. He's providing you to be able to contemplate and do those things. We have a tendency to think through our own lens and sometimes get proud through our own amygdala, which is our survival center, and get into an idea that somebody's supposed to live in our values instead of honor theirs and communicate what we value in terms of theirs and appreciate how they contribute to the possibility for us to fulfill our mission as an integrated society. I said, it's very possible that he's just as spiritual in his own expression as you are, not more, not less. And it would be wiser to love and appreciate that on the planet because there's no two people with the same set of values and no two people with the same eyes and lenses and perspectives onto what spirituality is. So why don't we become inclusive and honor all the different expressions and realize that the divinity is omnipresent. It's not necessarily isolated to a particular, view. It's all encompassing. And she kind of calmed down a bit. And I said, have you ever sat down and written down what he's dedicated, how it helps you fulfill what you're dedicated to? She says, no. Have you ever noticed that when you try to get other people to live in your values, you have futility? She goes, I'm beginning to. I said, if you help other people get what they want to get in life, you get what you want to get in life. If you help him fulfill his spiritual mission, he'll help you fulfill your spiritual mission. But if you condemn him, you might end up having to divorce and then have to go to work and do what he does to learn that lesson.
So true. Oh, I love that.
I love that because it aligns so much with, our podcast, the intention is to have everybody embrace their unique form of spirituality, their unique expression of it. And this just, I think for our audience, the people who are listening, who maybe have a partner or a family member who they view as not being spiritual, you're now giving them a very different lens to look through that with and be able to say, well, okay, when they're in that operation or that flow mode of where they're operating within their highest values, then that is, operating with that divine presence.
we pursue with our amygdala, whenever we're not living by what we value most and we're not being fulfilled, we tend to go down, our blood glucose and oxygen tends to go down into our subcortical area of our brain, the amygdala and limbic system, our systems one thinking, where we react before we think. That center is avoiding pain and seeking pleasure. So it's addicted to pride and fantasies. And the pride makes us self-righteously, subjectively bias and misinterpret other people. And then our fantasy makes us think that we're going to get everybody else to match us. And so we go around in the twilight zone trying to get other people to match our reality. The moment we do, we suffer. And the suffering is there for a purpose. It's not a weakness. It's not a flaw. It's making sure that we associate pain with something that's not working. Is not going to get you what you want. So the pursuit of trying to get other people to match and live in your values is futile. But we tend to seek that which is similar, and we tend to attract that which is opposite to make us grow. So if we get around everything that supports us, we don't grow, we stay juvenilely dependent. So we must have the things that challenge us to make us precociously independent. And the two together in perfect harmony makes the full maximum potential as a human being. So we're going to attract as a mate the very thing that we disown. The purpose of marriage is not happiness. The purpose of marriage is to find someone to delegate low priority stuff to.
Damn it. Oh, wow. I'm interested because I have attended a few different seminars that you've done here in Melbourne. And one thing I've just always found so interesting about being in the audience is that when you speak, you have not only an extremely interesting way of explaining and delivering information, you're incredibly magnetic. I literally have always hung off every word because you really made me kind of think into everything. At the same time, I always wonder, like, where does this information come from? You know a lot about a lot, and you've studied and learned and lived such an incredible life. Do you feel that that information is channeled in any way? How does that information flow through you the way that it does?
Well, I would love to believe that I had some sort of supernatural connection, but if I look very carefully at my vocabulary, I can find an origin in my life somewhere, that vocabulary. And if I take the ideas, I may have integrated ideas from many sources. But I'm a guy that just loves learning, and I do my best to try to learn on a daily basis because I feel it's my responsibility as an educator. And I don't know if there's anything supernatural other than when I really have the opportunity to be with an audience, which is what I love doing. I get so inspired that when you're inspired, your intuitive capacities seem to be heightened, and you tend to flow. When you're congruent, you're fluent. And so I believe that if I'm able to present something that helps people fulfill what they value, they're going to register me as kind of a magnetic, charismatic guy. But I'm not. I just happen to hit their value system. Maybe somebody will sit next to them that doesn't match and go, that guy's an idiot. I don't like this guy. But, and I'm both. Let me share something that might be interesting. So I have some people that have similar values to me, and they'll look at me and they'll say, he's dedicated, he's perseverant, he's determined, he's inspired, and they'll filter me that way. Then I can have somebody with a complete opposite set of values. He's pig-headed, he's stubborn, he's addicted, and they will see the exact same behavior from both of those. And I own all that. So from the world's view, I'm all those things. And I'm not exclusive. I went through the Oxford Dictionary about 9 years ago. And instead of waiting for people to push my buttons and then discover that they were just reflections of myself and waiting to learn by trial and error, I thought I'd preempt it with foresight by going through an Oxford English dictionary, the largest dictionary I could find, and go through and underline every possible behavioral trait a human being could have. Wow. I found 4,608 traits. Then I went in there and I looked and I go, so who do I know that expresses that to the fullest, the most extreme example? And I put their initial out there. And then I went inside myself, methodically, neurotically, where and when do I display and demonstrate that behavior to who and who perceives me that way, until I quantitatively and qualitatively could see that I was equal to the most extreme example of the people I was projecting onto.
Mm.
And then I realized that I had every trait, nothing was missing. At the level of the
Yes.
essence of the soul, nothing missing in you. At the level of the existence of the senses, things appear to be missing in you. And those things that appear to be missing are all the things you're too proud or too humble to admit that you see in others inside yourself. So I basically prefer to have reflective awareness instead of deflective awareness, to be inclusive, not exclusive, and to realize that it's all us. And if I'm not able to love somebody, it's because it's reminding me of something that I'm too proud or too humble to admit that I have, that I don't want to face. And if I go and dig deeper, own that, appreciate it, see how it serves me, then I'm fine with everybody else. And then their spiritual path matches the magnificence.
Wow. We often give people homework, like our listeners, we give them homework when we do this, to kind of say, why don't you do this activity to kind of build their self-awareness or build their curiosity? But I'm not sure how many of them will take away the challenge of going through the Oxford Dictionary line by line and highlighting and doing that deep reflective nature. It'd be a good interesting experiment for them.
I just noticed that whatever I was emphasizing, I heard myself saying things to people, and I would say something. Did you get that? Make sure you write that down. I'm thinking, I'm talking to myself. What am I doing? I'm projecting this on them, but I'm talking to myself. And I realized that they're pushing my buttons because I don't want to face that. So I figured I better grow up and face those things about myself. And so I had this guy one time, I was teaching the Breakthrough Experience again, and this guy, his wife demanded he come because she was right, he was wrong, and so she was going to fix it. I've never seen a woman do this before. And so
they try.
Really?
So he comes there, and now he is absolutely uninspired, he doesn't want to be there. So he's on his cell phone talking and just, irate, because she's forcing him and kind of giving him an ultimatum. So I could see what's going down. It was really obvious. She was infatuated and living in a la-la land about how positive and good I was. And he was pointing out how terrible I was. And the two together was representing probably who I was, right? So finally she pushed him because he was rude on the phone, and she just laid into him.
Oh.
And then he laid into her, and it was this argument going on right in the middle of the seminar. And I did. And then all of a sudden he comes after me because she has me on this pedestal, which is not true, but she has this illusion. So he goes in there and just slanders me for about 10 minutes. The whole room is just speechless, just slanders me. Who do you think you are? Slanders me. And I'm sitting there going, and whatever he was saying, I was thinking, can I handle that one? Can I own that? And as he's saying each one, I was thinking, like, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't know anything about cooking. I don't know anything about driving. I don't know anything about cars. I don't know anything. I'm just running all the places where that's true. So it had no effect. And I was watching him throw the barbs at me and going inside and going, it's all true. Everything he's saying is true. In different contexts, maybe not the context he's projecting, but in different contexts. I'm an idiot when it comes to IT. I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to this. And in other areas, I'm pretty aware. So I was watching this, and when he got through, he just was huffing and he finally says, I think you're my father. I think I needed to get that out. And I said, I think so. Sounds like it. And he says, you didn't attack me and beat me. And I said, no, everything you said was true in some context in my life. And it was great for me to discover that I could handle that and own that. So thank you. That was one of the best tests I've ever had, to be able to own my stuff. Now, everything that she needed to hear about me, because she's got me on this pedestal and she's conscious of my upsides and unconscious of the downsides, he leveled the playing field and made her aware of it. So she calmed down her infatuation, and he brought out his resentment back in equilibrium. And they're both centered. So it's a perfect thing to happen. In the process of doing it, he reaches over and grabs her hand. let's go on our break now because it's break time.
Yeah.
And then afterwards he came to the program. He says, I really want to be in this program now.
Oh,
And she's
Ready for the breakthrough.
Yeah. He's ready for the breakthrough. And now she's starting to be a little bit more cautious. It flipped. By the end of the program, they both broke through because she calmed down her delusion and started to appreciate her husband instead of comparing him to fantasy people that she thought I was. And so everything was part of the perfection of watching this spiritual journey occur. Everything in our physiology, in our psychology, in our sociology, and even our theological constructs are offering us a feedback to help us become authentic. And if we can see what's going on in our life through those lenses or those eyes, we'll see that life's on the way, not in the way. Be grateful for life.
Wow. What do you say after that?
Well, I think for me, what it makes me think about is that I have no doubt that when people go through the breakthrough experience, that they sometimes believe it triggers a spiritual awakening for them, that they have those moments of those epiphanies that completely changes the trajectory of their life as they go through it. Now, it may be very different than people who have spiritual awakenings triggered by other things. For you, do you consider yourself to have had a spiritual awakening at any point in time? And is there anything that you can share with us through that sort of spiritual awakening lens, whether that's what you would call it or not, but, one of those big, profound shakeups in your life?
Let me see if I can find a picture here. When I was 17 years old, I met Paul Bragg at a Sunset Recreation Hall in the North Shore of Oahu, from the Bragg amino acid guys. I was a high school dropout at the time. I had a long hair and a beard, and I was a hippie surfer.
Wow.
Living on the North Shore surfing. I was living there in North Shore, Oahu. And in the recovery of nearly dying, I was led to this health food store, and the health food store, I was led to this yoga class. That's when I started yoga at 17. And I went to this class, and there were 35 young teenagers sitting on little mats and towels on this wooden floor in this little recreation hall. There's a woman yogi there who introduces Paul Bragg, and he begins to speak. And he said that we have a body, we have a mind, and we have a soul. The body must be directed by the mind, and the mind must be guided by the soul to maximize who we are. And that what we need to set goals for ourselves, our family, our community, our city, our state, our nation, our world, and beyond for 120 years. And he says that what we think about, what we visualize, what we affirm, what we feel, what we take actions on becomes our reality. And this was something that I hadn't really heard before. And it just wasn't my normal thing. I was told I was an idiot. I was a dunce cap kid. I was, was never going to amount to anything, that kind of stuff. So that night, I had a new idea that maybe I could someday become intelligent, because I didn't read till I was 18. I had learning problems, speech problems. And so that night was the first night that I saw a possibility that I could someday become intelligent. I mean, I could stand on a surfboard, that kind of intelligence, kinesthetic intelligence, but not academic or reading intelligence and speaking intelligence. I had to go to a speech pathologist starting at 1.5. So that night I got inspired by this guy, and I thought maybe I could overcome my learning. And I really didn't expect that. I thought I was going to make surfboards on the North Shore the rest of my life. And then he took us through this guided imagery meditation experience. He called it the alpha meditation. And during that, I saw myself walking through the stoned archway over to the right and up into a balcony about 40 feet above in a building over a giant square where 1 million people were standing there. And I was speaking clearly about spiritual healing. Wow. And in the background, there was an iconic building from every major city around the world. And it was a message. That the thing that I called it was a man on a mission with a vision and a message. And I was speaking in Melbourne maybe 12 years ago. And I was telling the story about it. There was a guy in the back of the room who came forward at the very end. And he said, Dr. Demartini, I'm a painter. I would love to paint that vision. May I paint that? I said, that would be inspiring. And he says, I'll send you a sketch. You give me your email. And if you like the sketch, I'll paint it. Well, a couple days later, 3 days later, he sent me this sketch, and I was like shocked. This guy captured what I saw. It just brought tears to my eyes. You know, you get one of these gamma resonations and synchronicities in the brain. You get this moment of authenticity and aha. I was going, whoa. So this guy ended up painting this and sending it to my office. And this is what he painted.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
And I know our listeners who'll be listening to the audio of this, if it's possible, Dr. Demartini, we would love to get a copy of this to be able to show it along with the show notes. That is incredible.
I'll take a little photograph of it right now.
Oh,
Try
gosh.
Got it.
There's such presence in that. There's...
Wow.
So that was what I saw at 17. I don't know if you call it a vision, epiphany, an inspiration, but I was in tears for probably 20 minutes. And I knew that I knew where I was headed then. And I've been doing that now going on 51 years. I've been on this mission.
And to come from a place where having those learning difficulties and, you know, from what I know of your story as well, like, you know, being out of school, being in that, you know, thinking that you were going to be making surfboards, that to go from that to being a world-class educator who is inspiring millions across the globe, and, you know, the legacy of the work that will come with that as well. That is just phenomenal to have not only had that experience, but then to actually follow through in it. Because, you know, for many of us, we might have a vision, we might have a dream, we may have something that we're inspired to do, but it's nothing if we don't follow through on the action. And it's even less unless we are inspired to greatness and we, you know, get rid of all of those things that become our barriers in our way that stop us from traveling the world the way you do, writing the number of books that you do, doing the amount of seminars that you do to be able to get your word and message out into the world. It's truly phenomenal.
Well, I'm pretty well useless everything and doing anything else, so that's all I
got. Well, you're getting plenty of gold stars in what you're doing right now.
I learned at age 27 after reading a book, The Time Trap by Alec McKinsey, that if you don't fill your day with high priority actions that are deeply meaningful, that inspire you and fulfill you, your day will fill up with low priority distractions that don't. And if you don't define what that is and design your life, you'll live by duty, subordinating to the whims of projections and opportunistic projections of other people. So I got as clear as I could about what it is that I want to do, and I learned to delegate everything else. So today I teach, research, write, and travel. That's it.
Wow.
I don't cook. I haven't driven a car in 33 years. I haven't cooked since I was 24. I have cleaners. I've got a captain for the ship. I've got concierge for transport. I've got cleaner. Everything is delegated. My girlfriend even says, you know, why don't you put George Clooney in on the sex area, and then we'll take care of that. Would be very helpful to me. Delegate that.
Love it.
She's joking. But the point is, so I called George and I said, look, can you take care of this for me? And he said, I'll be glad to do that for you, John. I would do that.
And we can quote you on that.
I'm a firm believer that it's your life. And if you don't, we have an accountability if we want fulfillment. We have a sensory cortex for rewards. We have a motor cortex for motor actions of service. Most people, if you ask them when's the most fulfilling moment of your life, you'll find it's doing something that's deeply meaningful to you that serves and fulfills others, and they say thank you. So if we don't target what it is that we love to do, that we can't wait to get up in the morning and do of service, and do it in a way that's in a sustainable, fair exchange with others, where we're remunerated in a fair way, abundantly receiving, we won't be able to delegate the lower priority things. So if we delegate the lower priority things, we're liberated from the things that depreciate our self-worth and to distract us from what's meaningful. And we're able to go out and be most fulfilled and have a meaningful life. So it's our responsibility to take the time to identify what we feel is our calling that contributes in a fair exchange way. Now, some people say, well, what about a woman that wants to raise a family? Well, if she's going to raise a beautiful family, she has a husband that's going to make the income. And if she's going to do that, then that's her customer. That's her business. She's going to, make sure that that's a fulfilled husband, and then do what she can to help produce magnificent products called children, and do it in a fair exchange manner. Everybody has really some sort of business. It may be satisfying one individual, but the point is, finding a way of being of contribution to people to make a difference through your own unique expression of values is what's the key. And then delegating the rest. I don't do anything that requires any reminding, motivating, or incentives to do, because I found if I do, I'm needing outside extrinsic motivation to do it. And that's not intrinsic. I want to do what is intrinsically inspired to do, and I do that. Everything else is delegated away. So I spend my day teaching, researching, writing, traveling. That's it.
I mean, that
I don't
sounds
have
pretty
anything else
amazing.
to have to do.
Wow. So where do you suggest everybody start to actually move towards, getting everything off the list that they don't want to do? Is it literally just by starting in one area?
On my website, drdemartini.com, there's a complimentary value determination process. I'd start there. It's free.
And it's incredible. Yes.
Because that's the reason it's there. Because I really believe that would be the one thing that every human being can benefit by, is to take and do a reflective awareness on yourself and find out what you're really committed to. What does your life demonstrate? Many people subordinate to people they put on pedestals, inject the values of others, because values always go from those who are most powerful down to those least powerful, and inject those values, and then cloud the clarity of what they're calling us. And they don't give themselves permission to live an inspired life because they're trying to compete with the others. And anytime we compare ourselves to others instead of compare our own daily actions to what we value most, we're automatically going to get futility and frustration to let us know that that won't work. So we're not here to, live in the shadows of anyone. We're here to stand on the shoulders of giants and to recognize what we see in others that we admire is inside us, or we couldn't see it. And it's time to wake it up in our own unique form and bring our bouquet of opportunity out to the world. And the moment we do, and we prioritize, we tend to excel, because we can't wait to do it in the morning. And when you can't wait to get up in the morning and be of service, people can't wait to get that service. It's a magnetism that draws people to them to want to contribute. And then what you do is you do it in a way that's sustainable. So you identify what's really most important. You find what service that can provide, and how to communicate that in a way that people are engaged in and want it. So there's a return from it, from your efforts. And then you take a portion of it, instead of living in immediate gratification, which is a sign of living vicariously through other people, live by deferred gratification and invest a portion of it, so your money starts working for you. So you're not a slave to money, you're a master of money, and it's working for you. And then delegate lower priority things to allow you to be more proficient at doing what it is that inspires you to reach more people and serve more people. And to the degree that we serve more people, our abundance comes to us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we will definitely add quite a few things in our show notes, because I know that we've also got a free masterclass from you as well. So thank you so, so much for that. One thing I wanted to talk about, because a lot of our listeners will know your face from the film The Secret, and this whole idea of manifestation and law of attraction. Can you just explain that firstly for anyone that may not understand that, and give us that insight into what we can actually start to do to actually, invite that incredible energy in?
We have a hierarchy of values, as I mentioned. And whatever is highest on our value, we spontaneously think about. So nobody has to motivate me or remind me to teach, research, and write around the world. It's my innermost dominant thought. It's what I think about. I go to bed, and I wake up. That's my primary focus. So whatever's highest on your value, the second you set sail as captain of your ship and master of your fate in the direction of that which is most congruent, you become most fluent. You become most effective and efficient in the pursuit of something deeply meaningful that contributes. your innermost dominant thought does become your outermost tangible reality, and that's what you think about most. Now, when you do, and you live congruently with that, the blood glucose and oxygen goes into the forebrain and activates the medial prefrontal cortex, which is the seat of the self, according to Scientific American. When the moment we do that, there's also fibers that go into the occipital cortex, what they call V5, V6 associative areas. And it lights up the associative areas and allows us to see a vision. We literally have a neural pathway to be able to capture a vision when we're congruent. And those with a vision flourish. Those without a vision perish. When you're in your amygdala, we can't get there. There's no connections. But when we're in that area of the brain, we can see it. And what we do is we have the most magnificent associations to create the details of our vision. And the vitality in life is directly proportionate to the vividness of the details of what we see in our mind's eye. That's why I like that painting, because all the detail was there. Once you see the vision, and it brings tears of confirmation of authenticity to you, your innermost dominant thought in your vision is clear. The moment you do, the way you know it's clear is you can fluently articulate it without hesitation or ems or ums or hums or whatever. Just fluently articulate what you see in your mind's eye. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and it comes fluently, congruently out of your mouth. And it's just automatic expression, like an automatic writing and automatic speaking. And so when people hear me speak and they see me just going, with this fluency, it's because I can see it. If I see it, it comes fluently out. That fluency is the real affirmation. Many people confuse affirmation with positive statements, but affirmation means a condition of firmness in one's mind, a state of certainty and clarity without wavering. That's what affirmation of firmness. So the moment you're actually congruent, your innermost dominant thought, your vision, and your internal dialogue are all the same. And you now have a mission, a vision, and a message for the world. That is sort of an unstoppable state because you're clear. Now, what happens is in that state, you transcend the emotional polarities of the amygdala, which is joy and sorrow, happy, sad, and positive, negative, and all the polarities. And you reach a transcendental state where you have grace, true love, not puppy love, true love, inspiration, enthusiasm, certainty, and presence. And these are the states that maximize human potential and genius and awakening for people. It just spontaneously comes out. When that occurs and they have those feelings, the transcendental feelings of authenticity, they automatically want to capture that and write it down. We've all been in a moment of inspiration. We want to write down, I need to want to write that down. It's too inspiring not to get. We tend to want to write it down in space and time and master plan and strategically plan how to get there. We're not exaggerating ourselves and puffing ourselves with arrogance, which is inauthentic, where we set too big a goal in too short a time frame. We're not minimizing ourselves with shame, setting too small a goal in too long a time frame. We're present with authenticity, setting real goals in real time frames, seeing it in our mind's eye, and creating a strategy that's actually tactically effective. In that moment, our energy is we're not having resistance because of the inauthenticities. We're having vital energy. Our vitality is directly proportional to the clarity of the vision. Our vitality goes up. Our brain transforms sensory information in the thalamus and filters out reality and allows us to access synchronicities that we don't normally see, which we call the law of attraction. And all of a sudden we see the opportunities that are there that people can't see when they're inauthentic. They can't see them because they're pursuing something that's not them. They're trying to be somebody they're not. Envy is ignorance and imitation is suicide. So the moment they're authentic like that, they see opportunities, they're ready to act, they have vitality, and they recognize the resources, and they automatically are activating the forebrain, which is the gratitude center, and we're grateful, and their self-worth is up, and there's no way they're not going to manifest what it is that's inside their heart.
I'm geeking out on
Wow.
the science behind all of this, but where I would love to bring this is that so much of what you speak about is very much in the realm of the body and the mind. So the physicality of all of this. What role does spirituality play in that, or the soul? So if we look at the body, mind, and the soul, so a lot of what you spoke about is very much the physicality and what's going on in the brain and all the processes that go on in the brain. But what is the spiritual / soul element of what you're speaking about?
Zeno around the 5th century BC, was attributed, even though I think it's before him, was attributed to the thing called the dialectic. And the dialectic was somebody would propose a proposition and somebody else would propose an opposite proposition, and there would be a debate, or not a debate, but a difference of ideas. And slowly but sure, they would reveal to the other individual information that they had been ignorant of, and they would come to a combination. So one would be a thesis, one would be an antithesis, and then they'd come to a join and they'd have a synthesis. So a synthesis was greater truth than thesis antithesis. Now, what's interesting is the brain is set up that way. The brain is set up to synthesize whatever's happening. Anytime we get perturbed by something that supports us or challenges us, we have a homeostatic mechanism to try to bring it in equilibrium, and all the facilitations and inhibitions of the brain are trying to bring together. The moment they come into perfect equilibrium, we have a state of grace. We have a spiritual experience. We show that in our brain as a gamma synchronicity. A gamma synchronicity means, like if we get supported, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which lowers the brain waves down into 3 cycles per second. If we get stimulated and activated by something that fight or flights us, we get up to 13 or so. But when we put them together in an alpha theta state, we get a gamma wave that it comes out of an 8 cycle per second and joins into a 40 cycle per second. And all of a sudden we have this synchronicity and tears come out of our eyes. We see the hidden order in our apparent chaos. We see the balance of nature. And in a perfectly balanced state of mind, grace and spirituality is born. Spirituality is a perfectly equilibrated mind where there's no judgment, because it's transcendent. The soul means the state of unconditioned love. It's an acronym for a state where we're not exaggerating ourselves looking down on people. We're not minimizing ourselves looking up at people. We're in a state of pure reflective awareness where we are authentic and we have just grace, because we see the divine perfection in us and the divine perfection in them, and there's nothing to change in us relative to them or them relative to us. In that moment, we have a perfect gamma synchronicity and synthesis. So I like to think of love as a synthesis and synchronicity of all complementary opposites that we could perceive, that we could judge, because we're seeing simultaneous contrast. Wilhelm Wundt in about 1895 wrote on simultaneous contrast was the way of accessing spirituality through our own mind and brain. So we can't separate spirit, mind, and body. They're really, because when you have a perfectly balanced mind, our physiology brings maximum potential and wellness, and we have grace in our heart opens. And what's interesting is the moment this gamma synchronicity occurs, the hypothalamus activates the parasympathetic and sympathetic, which activates the intracardiac reflexes that bring a complete feeling of an open heart. So we literally have an open heart neurologically and physiologically the moment we have authenticity. So spirituality is a confirmation of a moment of authenticity when we're in a state of unconditional love and we see the magnificent divine order of what's happening in that moment. And it's working through our body, it's working through our mind, but it's a transcendent state. And that's where we have grace and love and inspiration and true enthusiasm. Most people think excitement is enthusiasm, but enthusiasm is a poised state of perfect equanimity of the mind, where there's nothing to change. And you're, as it said in the Gita, Om Tat Sat, as it is, not as we think it should be. And in that moment of grace, when we have humbleness to divinity, we have certainty for humanity in that state. And divinity means the enlightened state of awareness where we see the hidden order. Claude Shannon, in his book on information theory, showed that when we are seeing things with a conscious positive but unconscious negative, or conscious negative and unconscious positive, we have ignored some of the information and we're not seeing the whole. And we have entropy, and we have missing information, and we have incompleteness and blindness and ignorance. But the moment we see what's actually there, the magnificence of what's actually there, both sides simultaneously, there's just thank you, grace, and spirituality is born. So we use our physical body to confirm and to express our spiritual nature when we're in a state of awareness that nothing's out of order, nothing's missing. There's nothing unconscious. We're fully conscious. We're mindful. The Gnostics called it pleroma. Pleroma meant the fullness of the bouquet of expression of our own divine state.
I already know that I want to re-listen to this more than once to go and digest everything that you've just said. And when Liz mentioned earlier about, do you think that you channel when you speak, like to witness you in your full state of flow on our podcast is just, it is a spiritual experience to behold, just seeing someone who is totally in a state of flow, being able to absolutely access the huge amount of information that you have accumulated over the years through, you know, diligent research and your own experience as well. It is just beautiful to see that in full flight.
No. No, I'm just attached to GPT chat. That's all.
Even if you could be tuned in that much to be able to actually speak it, maybe there is that AI underbelly. Yeah. I would love to, can I shift gears? Because I feel that we're very in the outward focus of the work that Dr. John Demartini takes to the world and the kind of spiritual lens on that. But if we kind of bring that back a little bit more internally and you talk about the intrinsic, what does spirituality look like for you on a daily basis? Do you have any things that you would consider to be spiritual practices that you do, whether it's on a daily, a weekly basis, anything that you can share with us?
Well, I'm known for my bad jokes, so that's probably the highest spirituality I have. I don't see myself. In my book, the Breakthrough Experience, I said those that are searching for spirituality the most are the ones that are denying its presence the most. It's always present. It's not something you need to go find, not something you need to do. It's always present. In the Breakthrough Experience, I explain to people when somebody's criticizing you, you're unaware of where you're puffed up and challenging them and where somebody's been building you up in your mind, but it's stored in your subconscious mind. If you see them simultaneously, you'll realize that it's all dance. And you're not a victim of circumstance, you're now a master of the dance. So what I try to do is if I perceive something that makes me seek or avoid, have an impulse or instinct from my amygdala, I try to find the opposite perception to try to balance it so I'm not distracted. Because our distractions from being present is nothing more than our incomplete awarenesses of events that occur in our perception. If we go through there and ask questions, which I do, if I'm impulsively seeking something or drawn to something or repelled from something, I try my best to find the downsides to what I think is up, and I try to balance them.
Yeah.
You know, if I see a very beautiful woman or whatever, I have to calm down and see the downsides to it because it can distract me. If I see somebody who I think is you know, irrational or whatever, I have to look at where am I doing that and what's the upside. But if I ask questions, it allows me to see my blind spots and I'm able to see again. So I spend most of my day focusing on what is most meaningful to me, research and teaching and things. And when I'm doing that, I have the least amount of distractions. But if I get distracted, it usually means that it's a feedback to let me know I'm not on priority and I'm elusive and it's some part I haven't owned in myself. So I take advantage of those moments to go and own that and then go back onto priority. So my daily ritual is I don't have anything else I must do. I mean, I travel the world on a ship. I go to various places. I go to island, places to places around the world. So most of my day is teaching, researching, writing, or traveling. And if I want to take over a thing and it's a very fascinating thing to see outside, I'll get off the ship and I'll go and sightsee or whatever, and I'll come back. Or I'll meet with some amazing people and converse with them or something, or go to a lecture or something. But most of the time, my day is feeding my mind the most important information that I can do and trying to share that with people because I feel that that's my mission. And as long as I do that, I don't have anything but spirituality. It's all spirituality. I don't think
Yeah.
I need to do something for spiritual. My life is a spiritual quest. I don't think in terms of Sunday or Saturday or Friday or some spiritual day. Every day is, as far as I'm concerned, is the day of your inspiration. If you're not living an inspired life, it's not because there's some external reason. It's so simply you haven't taken the time to observe your life in a way that you can see that there's a perfection in it.
Thank you.
Absolutely
That's
beautiful.
just amazing. One thing I wanted to bring up actually, is it true that you have kept a gratitude journal for 37 years?
Try longer.
Is it really?
Yeah, much longer. It's about 9,000 pages.
Oh,
It's 10-point
wow.
print, 1-inch margins. And yes, I keep a record of it. In fact, you'll get a kick out of this if I bring it up. And what do we see right here? I had the opportunity to be interviewed by Liz and Diane, the host of Spiritual AF
wow,
podcast.
we're in your
Oh
journal.
my God. I'm gonna
Okay,
take a picture of it.
there's a screenshot if ever there
Wow.
was.
I have, this is where I was yesterday. And so I keep a record of every day of my life, wherever I go, every
Wow.
city, every country, every podcast, every talk, every place I get to go, people I get to meet,
That is
things I get to do.
incredible. Wow. I
It
mean,
will
Everything.
certainly be
got a
appearing in
street- you
our
got a-
gratitude journals this evening.
Here's
yes.
somebody named 2 streets after me. I thought that was interesting.
Demartini close.
So I keep record. I have a daily journal every single day. It's about 9,000
Wow.
pages,
Wow.
and I've been doing that for many, many years. The places I get to go, the things I get to do, speaking engagements I get to do, everything, TV, radio, newspapers, books, magazines, everything I get to do,
Wow.
I keep records of.
And
So it's
will
my
has there
gratitude
ever been a day where you've decided just to sit down and start from scratch and read from page 1?
What I do is I have all these volumes. It's 33. It's about, I'm having to go into the 34th volume soon, but it's 33 volumes. Some are 900 pages, some are only 400 pages. But what I do is it's got all my objectives, goals, and metrics, and posthumous biography and obituary. It's got everything that I envision in my life, that how I envision life. And I read it and refine it and read it and refine it and update the metrics on it daily.
Wow.
So I may read it and I'll stop there. And the next day, wherever I left off, I read another, however many pages, 5 pages, 10 pages, whatever many. Edit it if there's any updates to do, put in the metrics, and go on to the next, and just keep going over and over and over again. Just keep working on it.
I mean, that in itself is
pictorial
absolutely
biography of what
incredible. Wow.
Yeah, it's a pictorial biography of what I wanted my life to be. And what's
Wow.
interesting is I set out many, many goals. I said that I wanted to write for 2,000 magazines. I'm at 1,533 magazines now. And I wanted to go to every country on the face of the earth. I'm spoken on 192 countries now. So everything that I set out to do, I keep records of, because if you're really serious about it, you'll metric it. And
You
if
get
you're
what
not
you
getting
measure.
it, you need to change your strategy or calm your goal. You got to get real with it. Because if you're setting goals that are unrealistic, you put unrealistic expectations, you'll beat yourself up and you'll have anger. Anger is a feedback to let you know that you don't have a strategy for what you're wanting to achieve, and you have a fantasy. So you either calm the fantasy or build the strategy in order to get things you're grateful again. So everything is a feedback to guide us to how to master our lives.
That's right. And a really great way to finish off now is just to share that you were on our list to get on our podcast before we'd even started it. Your name was there, so we've just ticked something off our little list there as well.
Yes, manifesting and magnetizing you towards us. So we're so privileged.
We both are helping each other fulfill our dreams. So you're helping me
Yes.
reach people I would reach, and vice versa. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Look, that's just been jam-packed full of so much gold. I did want to mention, just before we finish, you have your new book, The 7 Secret Treasures. Would you like to give us a quick share on what to expect in that book? Because that's something that I cannot wait to read.
Yes, that came out in October. I've got 2 more that's about to, well, there's 3 that's actually coming out since then.
Oh, wow.
So I've been done 7 books this year.
Oh my goodness.
But that book is on how to empower each of the 7 primary areas of life, which has been my dream since I was 18. I wanted to master my life starting at age 18. And I thought, what exactly does that mean? And so I divided life into 7 areas: our intellectual pursuits, our business pursuits, our wealth pursuits, our relationship pursuits, our social pursuits, our physical wellness pursuits, and our spiritual pursuits. And so what this book is some of the highest priority actions that I found that help people awaken or empower those areas so they can be living an inspired life in each of those areas. Because there's no reason why you can't create original ideas that serve human beings, create a global business, create financial independence. All those are doable. And so what I'm doing is just showing people how I've been blessed to do that and passing that on to them, and the highlights, the highest priority actions that help that. And that's what the 7 secret treasures is, that everybody has that treasure inside them. It's just hidden from them because it's as Paul Dirac, the Nobel Prize winner, said, it's not that we don't know so much, we know so much that isn't so. We bought into misinformation instead of actually trusting our knowing.
Oh. And for anybody that is interested, where they can go to listen to more podcasts, watch more videos, read the books, I'm guessing that the best place for us to send is your website, drdemartini.com. Is that correct?
Yeah, if they go to drdemartini.com, there's a Demartini show, Dr. Demartini show, and there's enough media on there to keep you busy. You may not be a Buddhist when you get on there, but you'll have to be a Buddhist when you're done, because you're going to have to believe in multiple reincarnations just to keep up with what's on there.
Yes.
So much information.
So much information.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and hopefully we'll come back and have you on sometime in the future as well.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. Just incredible.
Absolutely fantastic. And thank you, Liz, for outing me and saying I was nervous at the beginning of this, because this has been the one that I was most worried about, but we all survived. Thank you so much, Dr. Demartini. That was just incredible.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And by the way, if anybody has difficulty comprehending whatever was said or whatever, you can join a 12-step program, Survivors of Demartini. So that's
Well, live to tell the tale.
Yes.
That's it for another episode.
Thank you for listening. Did you know that we are building a movement of 1 million people who are spiritual as fuck? We would love for you to join us. You can start by leaving us a review on Apple Podcast. Every month, I'm going to intuitively choose one person and do a psychic reading for you. So
follow us on Instagram, send in your stories and topic suggestions, and join the movement
at spiritual.a.f. Until next time.
This is a Guide Your Light Network production, creating podcasts with purpose.